it's obvious now that Trump has never been in a position better to be the quote-unquote undisputed leader of the GOP than probably the day January 5th, 2021. And the reason for that is the FBI raid. Even if the circumstances do turn out to be piecemeal, not that significant, the fact that it did happen basically caused every single possible challenger to come out to his defense. Really just showing that if you have to do that, then you are at least at some level bending the knee to the undisputed leader of the GOP. And we're not just the ones saying that. Many Republican allies to President Trump actually want him to announce immediately that he will be running in 2024. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Many top Republicans who have been trying to get him to announce for months now before the midterms are actually coming around to the idea. And Trump himself is also apparently weighing the decision. The reason that, given that you had all of these candidates, Mike Pompeo, even Mike Pence, obviously, who's been critical, or at least tacitly critical of the former president, Ron DeSantis, even Glenn Youngkin, not exactly the Trumpiest guy on the planet, who didn't even want Trump to come to Virginia to campaign for him. All of them had to come out and speak against this raid. And so what they said is that Trump has really been weighing, should I announce before Labor Day, possibly on Labor Day, maybe after the midterms? The reason why he wouldn't want to announce before the midterms, some Republicans didn't want him to, is they don't want the midterm elections to also be about Trump.
Yeah.
Obviously, Trump is a drag on the ballot. There's just no question.
Yeah,
but
he doesn't care about that.
He doesn't care at all. He wants to freeze. He basically wants to freeze the race and make it so that these people cannot outsmart him, come out ahead of him. He wants to be there very first, freeze it basically completely, really as he did in 2016. Remember, I think he was one of the very first presidents ever who the day after he won election was like, I'm running for re-election. He never shut down his re-election campaign. It's actually not really done in history. Biden has basically been doing that as well. But with Trump kind of setting that precedent, by freezing the race, you basically make it so that there's not going to be any sort of primary, or if there is, it's just going to be a much more of a contested. So the CNN report is really interesting. Great reporters who are there on the byline. And what they point to is that this would also freeze out any sort of potential quote-unquote anti-Trump challengers like Larry Hogan or a Mike Pompeo or others. And now, look, those people didn't have a chance in hell, but they would have gotten a significant amount of media attention if they announced ahead of Trump's actual announcement. And because he's just been in the strongest possible position, really puts him in an advantageous space. So look, it's certainly possible. The other thing to note, as we said, let's put this up there, it's just remarkable to look at how many of the people who have come out and voiced their concern for him. Ron DeSantis, Mike Pompeo, Ted Cruz. Every single one of them. As I said, freaking Glenn Youngkin, who is the governor of a barely Republican purple state here in Virginia, had felt compelled to come and speak on his behalf. Like, that just shows you how undisputed that this is to the GOP identity. Even Mike Pence, let's throw Mike Pence's tweet up there. Quote, I share the deep concern of millions of Americans over the unprecedented search of the personal residence of President Trump. No former president of the United States has ever been subject to a raid of their personal residence in American history. Yesterday's action undermines public confidence in our system, and Attorney General Garland must give a full accounting to the American people as to why this action was taken. He must do so immediately. So, look, the fact that Pence, who clearly has said that, privately has told people, yeah, I might run against Trump. You know, he's got the honor of how he behaved on January 6th. He had the break with Trump post where Trump trashed him as a coward. He even is bending the knee. This just shows you that, and I think this just confirms really what I thought all along, which is that if Trump was truly in the crosshairs of a Ron DeSantis or any of these people, that he would just destroy them. The people, have to come to his defense. The fact that DeSantis doesn't even have it in him to ask Trump to endorse him, but still has to send out a tweet trying to defend Trump whenever he's in the barrel. It's just like, dude, that's just how it is. There's just no beating the man. He rules American politics. And in a way, he just doesn't rule the GOP. He rules American politics. Look at our media environment, the level at which it gets activated by Trump. It's like, this is still the Trump era, even if Biden is the president. It's just remarkable, really, just to look at it.
I think that's really well said.
Yeah.
And I hate that because
I don't like it either.
I think that this is, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's the worst part about Trump, but one of the things that I really hate about the Trump era is that he becomes the dividing line.
Yeah.
And it really does make our politics just terrible. Just terrible. Where you end up with, like, you know, liberals donating to Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney making a comeback
Lincoln
and George
Project,
W. Bush being rehabbed and Nicole Wallace getting 14 hours on MSNBC or how many hours she hosts at this point. And you end up with Republicans who literally stand for nothing except for sucking up to this guy. And that's the only, like, he makes it so that is the most significant dividing line and fissure in politics. And that sucks because it's a stupid way to think about our country and our democracy and what we want it to look like. So that's what I've always found the most frustrating and the most difficult to deal with in the Trump era, is it is very much like you're with him or you're against him, and anything you think about healthcare or education or even cultural issues doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is where you stand on that one thing. And that freaking sucks and is terrible. And I will say, in terms of these Republicans who, this is all so predictable. I mean, I do feel like we're kind of validated in what we've been saying here, which is that it's just total wish casting, the idea that he's about to be knocked off his perch in terms of being the dominant force in the Republican Party. They might have had a chance right after January 6th. If there was an opportunity, that was the moment. And remember, Mitch McConnell kind of like flirted with it. There were a few people who kind of flirted with it. And then ultimately, very quickly, they fell back in line. And that was their shot. If they didn't take that shot then, when there was somewhat of a chance to knock this guy out, knock him down, make it so he can't run again, get him out of the way, that was the moment. Now, forget about it. It's done. You missed your chance. So, you know, and frankly, you were cowards at the time to not even really mount some sort of an effort to try if you thought this was important and you thought that there was a better direction that you could take the party in. I think the media response is also very revelatory. There were all these pieces, some of which we covered, about like, oh, the Murdoch empire splitting from Trump, and the New York Post and Wall Street Journal put out these op-eds against him, and they haven't had him on Fox News, and maybe they're trying to shift away, and they ran that like DeSantis puppies utter propaganda, pro-DeSantis propaganda. No, they all fell in line too, because ultimately it's, you know, it's business and the base is with Trump. And so when it's time to go and do whatever it is that he wants them to do and to say, they didn't think about it for an instant. There wasn't a single moment of hesitation. Every single host on the talking points, just like that, the minute it happened. They didn't need to wait for the details. They didn't need information. They didn't need facts. They knew that they had to go to the mat to defend this guy in the most over-the-top way possible, some of which we played on this show. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows you. And in terms of the political calculation of when he should announce, I think in terms of his own personal political interest, I think the people that are saying go for it now are right.
Honestly,
I think it's would be another blow to the Republican Party's chances in the midterms. That is my assessment, because what they want is to make this all about Biden, be a referendum on Biden. He's got trash approval ratings. People are very dissatisfied with the economy. 80% say it's on the wrong track. If the election is about that, they romp. If it's more like a 2018 dynamic where it's like all about Trump and how you feel about him and how do you feel about Stop the Steal, and oh, by the way, what about what they're going to do with abortion and, you know, the extremism there, that's a very different landscape. So, yeah, I'm sure that Republican congressional leaders are very much hoping that Trump waits till after the midterms, but he definitely doesn't care. And I do think it serves his personal interests, while everyone, literally everyone on that side just bent the knee to go ahead and announce now.
Yep, I think you're right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.